On a night when the firsts are flowing in Miami, the first national championship for Indiana football, the first national championship game since 2017 to be a one-score game. Wow. First 16-0 season ever in the history of college football. And now we've got a 16-0 undefeated Indiana football team to match the last undefeated college basketball national champion at Indiana as well in 1976. More first than that, certainly all over the place. But we enjoyed it from Miami. And I guess the advantage of Miami playing at home was negated by something that I didn't necessarily think about. And that's watching as a Miami football coach, player, fan, another team celebrate on your home field. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you being here for the best in discussion, debate, and analysis. This is, of course, postgame after the national championship. Indiana 27, Miami 21, the national championship game. This season did not disappoint. College football, for the most part, this season on the field did not disappoint. The Late Night College Football Show is brought to you by FanDuel. And this is our final installment of the 2025-26 college football season. And may the controversy continue, whether it's the 2025 national championship or the 2026 national championship. Whichever way you go on this one, Indiana is the king of college football inexplicably. And that was entertaining tonight. Hopefully it got a great TV rating because the drama was there, the great athleticism on the field, the great play calls, play decisions by Curt Cignetti, and then great play calls by both offensive coordinators in key situations, and Charlie Becker coming up with outstanding catches, and Fernando Mendoza making the Heisman play after he already won the Heisman, of course, diving into the end zone after he juked a couple of Miami defenders and played off his block superbly for Indiana to take that 10-point lead. But still, Miami had a shot, driving the ball down the field, and Carson Beck underthrows it, though. And Indiana comes away with the victory. Interception there by Shamari Sharp to close out the deal for the Hoosiers. Again, appreciate you being here, the Voice of College Football. One programming note before we start to take your calls. This Friday night, the state of the Voice of College Football. This Friday night. This Friday night, I should just throw this thing in the trash. This Friday night, the state of the Voice of College Football, our yearly annual off-season rundown of everything happening here at the Voice of College Football. And this will be unlike any other state of the Voice of College Football show, live stream you've ever seen before. This will be certainly one for the ages. What does that mean? We shall see. Could last 2 minutes, 2 hours, 5 hours. I could be here all night. I am banking on the latter, here all night, talking the Voice of College Football. But let's get back to the game of college football and your calls after we hit the chat. Jim, appreciate you being here, and also appreciate so much you being a member for 14 months. We do not take that for granted. Just win, baby. Once and foremost, first uttered by the great Al Davis, a great day in these parts. Jim, congratulations to you and Hoosier Nation. Congratulations on a national championship that was well earned on the field by the team, and certainly long-suffering Indiana fans, you have won a national championship in football. Who would have ever predicted or guessed? Not I. I did pick Indiana to win this game 24-17. Jim, this area is nuts. A college football natty, LOL. Who knew? Let's leave that there. Let's leave Jim's comment there for a good long time because he and other Hoosier fans have earned this night of celebration. Congratulations to all of you. All right, great people in the chat. We've got Doreen's here. George is here. Edward McCoy is here. Cheryl is here. Good to see Cheryl, of course. Probably George, Cheryl, the longest standing Voice of College Football member who still shows up. George, Cheryl, Pit Sniper. Good to see you as well. Moose, absolutely. Moose talking about a decrepit Michigan program, even though Indiana just won the national championship. I don't get it. We'll take the Michigan talk off for one night. All right, let's get Muley's on the line. Let's start with Muley. Muley, how you doing tonight?
I'm great. How are you feeling after that game?
Oh, I love the college football. I love the game. I love everything about it on the field, except maybe the targeting calls and such. But yeah, that was a great football game, and I enjoyed it regardless of who won the game.
Yeah, one for the ages, and there's so much we can talk about this game. But honestly, I just want to ask you, because you have such a great knowledge of college football, just to give like a quick rundown of how improbable it is for a team that 2 years ago was the losingest program in history, in college football history, now to be in such a short span national champions.
It's unprecedented. That's the best word I can use to identify what Kurt Cignetti has pulled off. We have seen other situations in which a coach took over a program in which there was little hope. And then they had to, of course, in the former era before the transfer portal, basically just based on their sheer will and organizational skills and coaching skills and forming a outstanding coaching staff, could hopefully get the job done in 3 to 4 years. But the best that we've seen in the past has been taking an Indiana type program and making them competitive, making them 9-3 competitive. We have not seen this ever happen, although, of course, the transfer portal was available to Kurt Cignetti, unlike those other coaches. But that same transfer portal is available to every other downtrodden program in college football and has been for 5 or 6 years. And Kurt Cignetti is the only one who's been able to master it to the ability, to the level of gaining just an eye for talent in developing that talent, because he certainly didn't use the transfer portal as Ohio State did a season ago to grab All-American level players. Most of these guys were underevaluated, under-recruited, performed well at a certain level. James Madison obviously being the most famous, because Kurt Cignetti took the most players from his particular school where he last coached. And what he has done is just unfathomable. He lifted this program to 11 wins in the regular season last year, and I thought that was remarkable, outstanding. Even though they played a weak schedule, I just thought for this to have happened at Indiana in one season, and now the jump from 3-9 to 11-1 in the regular season last year actually may not be as large a jump as they took this season, from 11-1 and roughly a top 20 team in college football to the most dominant team in the land, 16-0. It is one for the ages.
Yeah, there's really no words for it. Indiana, and while we're at Kurt Cignetti's transfer portal, a lot of these players made the jump from JMU, right?
Yep.
I don't know how many of the starters, but I'm sure, I believe it's like a good decent amount, like around 50% minimum, right, are just JMU players. So credit to him for not only bringing those guys over and those guys to, this is the most disciplined team, right, to get them to buy in, but to have that experience, play their role, and then put like a scheme, an identity out there where everyone has their own strengths or weaknesses, whatever. They have against teams that are very experienced, and then make something happen. It's ridiculous. And then also just even getting and then also it's not even just that too, because like Fernando Mendoza, who would have guessed he would have been a Heisman, right? Last year there were people like, hey, he's this Cal quarterback Mendoza, he's pretty good. He can be a pretty good quarterback. No one thought he was gonna be a Heisman though and win a championship.
I thought Muley the same thing, and I watched him play at Cal last year, and he was a gamer because he got sacked. We talk about the toughness, and the toughness was highlighted by Holly Rowe after the game in interviewing Fernando Mendoza, showing his arm, and of course, he got slammed to the turf a number of times, and a number of those may have been penalties in other games. But I watched him at Cal last year, and as soon as he was on the open market, went to Indiana, I figured this is a really good pickup for Indiana kind of football. Like they're going to probably go 9-3 this year because I think this guy's a really good quarterback. But I saw him more as gym rat, baller, gamer, that just squeezed as much out of his ability as possible. Well, he does that, but I didn't think at an elite level. I made that comment to Jim Coyle of Indiana Sports Radio this week, and he said, yeah, I thought the same thing. I backtracked and watched the tape from Cal last year, and I just thought this guy is a really good addition because he's going to be a leader, a gamer, a baller, but Heisman Trophy winner, like best quarterback in the country, no way.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And then on top of that, when you consider just going to get into this game, 2 fourth down calls where
Yeah.
to go and take that to go and get down, that's some gutsy stuff. And I'm starting to just see more and more of like the Signetti Saban comparison. This reminded me of like those Bama Clemson games where you have like a special teams, like when Bama had like did like a onside kick when they weren't noticing, or
Good
when
call.
Kenyon, or
Yes.
when they returned a 100-yard kickoff touchdown. Not, you know, Indiana was able to block a punt and get a touchdown there, and also just having the gutsy calls, to have to for those back shoulder passes to Becker, and yeah, and then yeah, on the touchdown play, they did a Mendoza QB draw. Like what? Like designed run for him. Man, there's so much I can get into. Yeah, it's great. I'll say this just to transition. I'm sure other callers will talk more about the game, but now that with Indiana winning, with Miami being competitive, and just given how the whole season has come out to be, what do you think it means for the sport going forward? I know there's a lot of talk about expanding versus not expanding the playoffs. Uh, but just that, as well as now that we see a team just instantly turn themselves around in 2 seasons, how do you think the sport's going to change? Can we see Kurt Signetti just continue to build and be like a dominant Nick Saban type? Will we see the Big Ten continue to dominate? Or because there's so much transfer portal, is it now anyone's game, depending on who takes the helm at whatever job?
I don't think we're going to see just this mass migration to the elite of college football, meaning I don't think we're going to see NFL style parity. Like a lot of people are predicting, okay, well, anybody can win. Anybody goes out there. Texas Tech obviously went out there and flooded the transfer portal, and Indiana is the best example. And we're seeing more parity. And I agree, we are seeing more parity than the 5 or 6 schools that have dominated the last 10 or 15 years. But I see it as more there being a few schools, whether they can sustain it or not, that are going to elevate from year to year and bump up and join the elites. And it's going to be a more well-rounded field every year, but those teams may not be the same. I do think that Indiana, because if you take away the name Indiana And if you take away the tradition or lack of tradition in the football program, if you look at all the advantages that Indiana has, the only one I can think of that they don't possess would be where they're located. It's not a great football playing state. It's not a bad football playing state, but it's not a great one, of course. But everything else, Big Ten money, uh, alumni base, huge university, committed to football now, apparently, and all of that, why shouldn't they be able to continue to succeed? So I think the opportunity there for Indiana. I don't think this is a flash in the pan kind of thing. If they had won the, if the transfer portal and the NIL era came into play during the BCS era, or even maybe the 4-team college football playoff era, i.e., a Cincinnati run to the playoff, a TCU run to the playoff, and Indiana would have kind of backed their way in with a weak Big Ten schedule. Then they got an easy playoff win or a scoop and score, a kickoff and upright. And, they just kind of did a TCU. Then I would think, okay, well, they caught lightning in a bottle. A number of things broke their way. They caught teams at the right time and all that. But this team was just way too dominant for that. And Kurt Cignetti just obviously is won at every level. And I just think that they are here to stay.
Right. Yeah, they're definitely here to stay. And I will say this, at least for NIL, I will think they're going to be teams that have the money, like Texas Tech, like mine. Maybe they don't win it, but they're going to be consistently good as long as you keep paying out for good experienced players, right? So yeah, and then lastly, what do we think about the playoff format going forward? Because again, when I was in the camp when it was first announced that 12 teams was too much, but now I've reverted back on it because now the reason you see a team like a Miami go on a run and give Indiana a run for money is because with what scheduling parity and imbalance conference schedules have, with these expanded conferences, anyone can play anyone. And again, sometimes, and it's also a weird thing too, to be fair, that because there are teams that don't play no one and get exposed, but then there are teams that don't play no one and then dominate, like 2018 Clemson. They weren't particularly great in the regular season. They had a couple scares, and then they go and dominate in those playoffs. So it's one of those weird things where Miami, they had a couple struggle games, quote unquote, earlier in this season, and I think that just kind of just helped figured out what they needed to fix and just made them prepared. So
Yeah, with what we saw out of Miami this year and Ohio State last year, they both had good regular seasons, but not great regular seasons, is more of an NFL model to a lesser degree. You can't go 10-7 like you can in the NFL, 9-8 and win a Super Bowl, but you can have a less than stellar regular season. And it's more about being hot at the right time than it has been in the past, where it was more about having the best regular season and then securing, let's say in the BCS era, a championship game spot, and then just playing the game of your lives for one round, for one game. You got to be hot for 4 games now, 3 to 4 games. And so you can have a stumble in the mid-season. Like Miami was not a really good football team for about 3 or 4 weeks mid-season, but that obviously would not have been possible in the past for them to be able to recover and win this whole thing.
Right. I agree. Yeah. Anyways, Mark, I'll let you get to other callers. It was a great season. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Muley. Appreciate it. All right, let's keep rolling here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate everyone being here. And again, I remind everyone that the State of the Voice of College Football live stream is coming up Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Unlike any other State of the Voice of College Football show you've ever seen. Last team to beat Indiana. Notre Dame, of course. And I got to say, one comment about the 4th and 5 calls. The plays were fun to watch. Mendoza made the great play. Steve Young came to mind. John Elway came to mind in terms of those being just historic NFL touchdown runs by quarterbacks. And then this being won there by the Heisman Trophy winner. And then the Charlie Becker play, which this kid just plays out of his mind. Every opportunity he gets, just consider the clutch level of the catches he made. So the 4th and 5, the second play call was a brilliant play call. The first play call was, I don't necessarily know that it was a great play call, but Charlie Becker made it one. But Cignetti is highlighting what basically is the new approach to analytics, which is taking analytics to another step, where when you look at the safe way to coach, which has traditionally been the way to go, you punt on 4th down, you kick field goals in the red zone when it's 4th down. You make all the kicking plays and you make the kicking portion what it is. But somebody a long time ago started to figure out the analytics of the possessions and why it's important to gamble and take the calculated risk, because over time you're making the better football play. Well, Kirk Cignetti took that to another level. He did gamble. The Indiana kicker 17 for 19 on field goals this year. He took the calculated move. I guess now he's 19 for 21. Took the calculated move and threw it away to go up by 6 points at the time when Mendoza scored to make it. Oh shoot, it was 24-14, correct? Then Miami scored the touchdown 24-21. So bypassing that play, 17-14 IU, line up for the field goal, make it 20-14. You lose on a touchdown, but you still maintain the lead and take the field goal out of play. But Cignetti basically says, okay, it's 4th and 5. If I go up by 2 scores, I almost assuredly win this game. So I want to do that. Plus, it's only 4th and 5. It's manageable. Plus, I got a great quarterback, and I trust him. I trust our play caller. And yes, I'm taking a risk, but I want to increase heavily, significantly, our chances of winning the game rather than increasing them just slightly and then putting the ball in the hands of Carson Beck in the Miami offense to either tie the game or, win the game, of course, because Indiana would have been up 6. All right. I wanted to talk to you guys first and foremost. These are all my notes for the instant analysis, which I typically do on Saturday nights right after the primetime game. But you know what? I wanted to talk to you fine folks first, and I probably won't even do this, even though I took notes for 3.5 hours, as I do all day on Saturday for 12 or 13 hours. And my nose has been running all night, so I'd rather hear from you. All right, let's get to the next caller. Dr. Buckeye showing up.
Yes, Mark. By the way, did you tune in at halftime or third quarter tonight, or did you watch the entirety of the game? I was just kind of curious.
I just followed the box score. I didn't watch any of the game. No, just I checked in a few times.
Are you joking right now?
Yes, I'm joking. When have I missed anything?
No. Last year you said you checked in at halftime. You missed like the first half of the Ohio State Notre Dame game.
I didn't miss it.
Okay.
No. First of all, you've got a great memory.
I know. Secondly, I do.
I thought you were alluding to me missing New Year's Eve, which I did that just because I had better plans. But
there are better plans than watching Ohio State football.
I missed the New Year's Eve action this year, and I'm glad I did. But last year's national championship game, yes, I don't remember. It's too long ago to remember why I didn't tune in until halftime. But I didn't just watch the second half. I watched from the first play of the game. I watched the entire game. Just the game was going on while I was catching up to the game. Correction there, David.
Okay. All right.
The play of the national championship game. I have not missed a play of the national championship game since like 1977.
Okay. All right. Now I'm starting to get what I'm hearing. All right.
Okay.
All right. Fair enough. You took some copious notes tonight. I see the legal pads were out in force. All right. Let's get into it. great national title game. Congratulations to both teams for playing hard and giving us some really good football tonight. I really thought coming into this one, I'm glad. First of all, I'm glad I took Miami minus the 8 or getting the 8.5. By the way, I had to sweat that out at the end. I'm going to get to that in a minute. I thought early on, Indiana's defense, very impressive in that entire first half. Miami could not get anything going. I thought for them to really have a chance, I thought they had to run the ball with Fletcher tonight and kind of, institute their game plan, which is let Beck throw short passes, the occasional shots down the field to Tony. And then, that was kind of been their offense for pretty much most of the year. I thought Indiana would have offensive tackles would have a hard time with Mesidor and Bain. Like I told you, if you go back to the Big Ten title game, their tackles had a hard time with our defensive ends in that game. If you watch that, the Big Ten title game, they did. So I personally think that I thought that would be a problem for them, and it was at certain times in this game. They got after them. Couple of key points in this one. Miami's got to be really feeling bad about their special teams after this one tonight, though. Wouldn't you say, Mark? The missed kick, the block punt. Gosh, huge. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so special teams play. When you get a block punt, you win something like 85 to 90% of the time, or a special teams touchdown, and Indiana does that, and they do that in the second half, which made it even more, I think, meaningful. It was a great play by Mikel Kamara, I believe, did a one-hander, didn't even have to lay out for the football. Carter Davis, late in the season, has not been kicking well. He had the 1 of 4 effort against Texas A&M. It was a windy day, but still, he's missed kicks since then and missed a crucial one, what turned out to be a crucial one, because otherwise, obviously, if the game plays out in the same manner, then they're driving for a game-tying field goal at the end instead of having to go for the end zone. Indiana's been airtight across the board. So we did so many stats breakdowns of this matchup across the board this week that you just see in every statistical category, which a lot of people comment to these videos. Those are stats. Stats are for losers or whatever. But over the course of 15 games, I believe most of them are extremely valid. In Indiana, they do not have a weakness. Now, their offensive line against a superior defensive front, and especially on the edges, did have its issues. And they did also make some outside the whistle penalties that may have cost them the game if things would have turned out differently on the final drive with Carson Beck, because the Big Ten Offensive Lineman of the Year on a 2nd and 1, called for a false start. And Carter Smith, and that backs him up to a 2nd and 6. Of course, they don't convert, and they only kick the field goal, and the game's still on the line. And they had some other penalties up front, a few again, illegal procedure or false start issues that cost them.
I was going to get to that, Mark. I thought in that instance, they might run quarterback sneak there. I know that they come from the shotgun a lot, but I thought that you could have made a case they could have run quarterback sneak there, because 1 first down and the game's over there. They could have just killed clock at that point, because Miami would have had to have burned a timeout and been left with 1 with like 1:50 something left. And, you run 2 plays, that's going to run almost 1:30 off the clock. So, that surprised me. I was thinking of that at that point. Boy, when Miami got it back down up 27-21, what are they going to think on that false start? One other penalty I got to ask you about too, Mark. What did you think of the roughing the passer? I thought that was highly debatable, by the way. I thought that was highly debatable. I know the guy up in the booth was, and maybe I'm old school football this way, the Jack Lambert line, you might as well put dresses on the quarterbacks. But to me, that was like clean, hard-hitting football. Your thoughts, Mark?
Highly debatable, but you're not going to get that debate from me.
Okay.
So I thought in watching the replay that, yes, that maybe by the book, it could be called and was called, of course. But I just think that the defensive lineman didn't do anything egregious in regards to, it was a hard shot. Well, it was basically a push. It was a hard push.
Yeah.
He didn't land into him physically. He stretched his arms and pushed him. And I just think, again, a lot of people like to go by the book, regardless of score and time on the clock. I tend to let things go, or want to see things let go that are kind of outside the whistles, in a sense, in regards to things that don't determine plays late in the game. I think you set the tone as an officiating crew early in the game to kind of rein in the emotions and let the players know this is how we want the game to be played tonight. Therefore, we're going to call those things in the first and second quarter to let you know this is not allowed. We're running a tight ship here. But late in the game, I don't want to see the officials get in the middle of the competition on the field.
Well, then you shouldn't have turned in for the Denver Buffalo playoff game on Saturday, because
I watched it.
Yeah, that thing got a little bit dicey at the end. They're letting corners and see, that's the one thing. They let the corners and the receivers, get rather physical on the outside tonight and let them play. So, and then that was the crazy thing about that. I'm not going to, just real quick. They let them play the entire game in that Denver Buffalo game, and then they decided to throw flags on the last drive, which was crazy to me. But
David, there's an old adage that there is holding on every football play. Yeah. And holding could be called on every play. I think we've gotten to a point on both levels, the NFL and college football, what little of the NFL I've seen, and I have gotten a little interested in the playoffs. I did watch that game basically start to finish, that you could call pass interference by the book on almost every pass play. They are letting those guys get that physical. There's this mentality that old school football was more physical, and it was in most instances. But in terms of the play on the perimeter between the wide receivers and the cornerbacks, it's more physical now than it's ever been.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that they were kind of letting them play tonight, and the guy in the booth that was working the game, the referee with Herbie and Fowler, had kind of indicated as much, calling the game. I did think, I tell you what, I will say this about Beck. I have my doubts about Beck. He had a couple of big third down throws tonight. Hit a nice 3rd and 15 down the seam there to the tight end. Hit a big 3rd and 6 when he had to run around and make a play. I thought, he hit some key throws. Give him some credit. I don't think you saw the safety there. I mean, the one thing with 50 some seconds in college football, you got to keep in mind, you've got a lot more time in college than you do the pros, because you get the clock stoppage after the first down. He could have taken a check down or an underneath route or something like that, and you'd had a clock stoppage if you're getting the first down there.
Yeah, they still had plenty of time. He didn't have to go for the shot downfield. And if anything, and players don't play this way, it's not their responsibility, I don't believe, generally, to play in this manner. It's up to the coaches to deal with the situation of the game. But if Beck throws a touchdown there's about 30 seconds left in the game, and they're up by 1, and Mendoza gets the ball back, and they only need a field goal with a kicker who's 19 for 21 this year.
Yeah. You never know what field position that had gotten on the kickoff, or, by the way, I have to say this about Indiana. Nobody throws back shoulder fade I've ever seen in college football better than Indiana throws back shoulder fade. It's like they've got that thing down to an art.
I will slightly tweak your comment, David, to, I don't know if they throw the back shoulder fade better than anyone, but they complete them better than everyone, because it seems like the receivers, Charlie Becker in particular, can catch it when it's not a back shoulder throw. It's like a back ankle throw.
Yeah. You give Mendoza, I mean, him and Surratt, that's what they hit us on in the Big Ten title game. He actually, some people were on Ohio State were like cooking Jermaine Matthews for say he got beat on that play. But Mendoza and Surratt made a great throw and great catch on that one in the title game, I remember, against us.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is a good team with Sigs. Is like I said, they improved in every area from an 11-1 football team a year ago. They improved in the trenches. They improved at running back by adding Hemby. Obviously, they upgraded at quarterback. And, like I say, hey, there you go, Mark. Hoosiers, the football movie. One of the great basketball movies of all time. Why not make Hoosiers the football movie?
I think you've got something there, David.
Maybe my all-time favorite, one of my top 5 or so all-time favorite sports movies. Great performance by
Dare I
Gene
admit
Hackman.
I've never seen it.
Get out, Mark.
I've never seen it.
You've never seen Hoosiers?
I have never seen Hoosiers. I'm not a big movie buff, for one thing.
Oh, really? Oh, well, yeah, I am. That's my thing. If I'm not watching sports, I'm usually watching a movie.
More into classic TV than I am movies.
Yeah, a lot of friends of mine are more TV show people than they are movie people. I'm definitely a movie person.
But I have seen just about all the classic sports movies throughout time, but not that one.
Yeah, that's arguably the best basketball. To me, the best basketball movie. Jimmy Chipwood. Shout out Jimmy Chipwood. But I'll say this though, Mark. I mean, what I think Indiana has done in just kind of the new world of college football, to kind of summarize here, I think what they've done here is through the transfer portal, as we talked about the last time we had a conversation, of how well to work it. To talent evaluate through the portal. This sport has long since been about the acquisition of talent and how you go about doing it. And now with the portal, and, he had, the James Madison guys that he brought in. And I think what he did by bringing in the James Madison guys last year is he laid the foundation for his future teams, because they got off to a good start. They had an 11-1 football team a year ago. And that other players took notice of that, and go ahead.
I was just going to say that there's one thing that I thought of when Ohio State brought in, I don't know if anyone expected I was going to drop this name tonight.
Yep.
Tanner McAllister, the safety from Oklahoma State, came to Ohio State along with Jim Knowles.
I remember.
And then you had someone who could teach the other defensive backs how to play Jim Knowles' defense and the entire defense to a certain extent. You had a player coach on the field who could relate to the players and also kind of teach the system. I wonder if they benefited to a certain extent in just having James Madison players be able to, help coach and teach Kurt Cignetti's system. I still am scratching my head about the talent evaluation of these players, and considering the high school football recruiting talent, not great on the Indiana football team. And then they bring in this load of transfers. And yes, they were productive players in college, mostly at a lower level. I'm astounded by how all this came together to be a great football team.
Yeah, like I said, Mark, I think they did a great talent evaluation. I think you've got to give them credit for that. I think, like I said, I think they laid a little bit of the foundation last year by going 11-1. Sure. And I think that also was probably like attracted some players to their team. Like, okay, maybe what Cignetti's doing here is real and he's got something going. Also credit his OC and his DC. By the way, his OC is Shanahan, no relation, by the way. I thought he was related, but I found out not.
No relation. I thought I just assumed he was related.
Yeah, not related to Mike or Kyle.
That's crazy. To be a Shanahan and an offensive coordinator at a high level, and you're not related.
Yeah.
It's still not answering my question, David. And
go ahead.
And I'm not asking you or anybody else to come up with the answer, because I can't come up with the answer. We could go team after team after team after team from here throughout time, going backwards in the modern era of college football, and we could make a direct correlation between roster talent. And I mean, obviously this team's talented. They've proven it. So I'm not saying they're not talented, but they weren't evaluated to be talented individually. We've never seen that ever before. Well, the closest we've seen to that is like a Clemson being the 12th most talented team in the country or something like that win a national championship.
Well, can I also say this too? I'm going to also harken back to another point that I made. This was also, and I think this Indiana team will be remembered well and should be remembered well in history. I'm not going to go as far as with the discussion you guys were having the other night to put them up there with 95 Nebraska or something. You missed me on that. But I think in a year where we had relative parity, like we talked about in college football, I think that also kind of helped. You notice this was kind of didn't it seem like a year that we had what we talked about before, kind of relative, at least amongst the top 20 or so teams, like we had talked about before. Don't you think that kind of helps the cause a little bit too?
Does it help the cause? Well, we're seeing an example of it.
Yeah,
I do think that there's more parity in the sport, but as I explained to the first caller, I don't think it's quite the parity that we're seeing in the NFL. I don't think it's quite the parity that some people are making it out to be.
No, what I said to you still stands, and you agreed with me on it. The top 20 has come a lot closer to each other than it was 5 or 7 years ago. Mark I think is a true statement right now.
Yeah, well, the top 20 7 or 8 years ago was close from 6 to 20.
Yeah,
and now it's closer from 1 to 20.
That's right, and that's still a big deal, Mark.
Oh yeah, it's a huge deal because what most matters? Who's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Yeah,
right.
Those are the teams competing for the national championship.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. We're not going to see our alma mater, win national champs. Kent State's not going to all of a sudden enter the party. But they aren't going to be partying at Dick's Stadium anytime soon, Mark. But yeah, the top 20 has, like I said, that's where I think it's become a lot closer in the sport. So, but I'm just glad we had a great title game. One of the better title games I've seen too, Mark, and a highly enjoyable one, way to end the season. So.
It's the best one we've seen since 2017. That would be the most recent one that could be argued against this one, because everyone since then, there's been a couple good ones, but not down to the wire. Alabama, Georgia would be the best one since the other Alabama, Georgia game.
Yeah.
But that was obviously the overtime game, the Tua throw. And that was the last great game.
Yeah, back-to-back years we had good ones because, the year before was Watson on the last play to beat Alabama. So, all right, so ends a great year of college football, Mark. We're going to be getting back together. You'll be talking about future content on the show come Friday, right?
We will do that on Friday.
Well, we'll have to get back together again.
Thank you, David. Good to see you.
Take care, Mark.
Thanks,
always
man.
A pleasure. Yep.
There you see my national championship game score. Not too bad. Picked Indiana by 7. Hoosiers win by 6, off by a point. Indiana 24-17 was the post from earlier tonight. I've gotten lazy in my old age. I used to post these predictions and do prediction videos and all sorts of analysis, and I just posted a score like 2 hours before the game. There it is. There's your score. There's your game. Get your late bet in, and hopefully you did and took Miami in the points, and you took Indiana to win. And if you took Indiana to win, you only won about a third of your bet because they were a heavy favorite at about plus 340. Of course, Miami would have won even money as the underdog against the spread because that is an even money play. All right. Appreciate everyone being here at the Voice of College Football. And as David reminds us, the state of the Voice of College Football, if you're unaware, every offseason, usually about a month after the national championship game, we get together to talk about the state of the Voice of College Football, meaning the original channel here, but the entire network that is ballooned out to, I don't know, I lost count, 35 or 40 channels out there, and just talk about what we've done, what we've accomplished, what we have failed to accomplish, what we have our sights set on, what the mission is, the history, and the entirety of the Voice of College Football. We will do such this Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time, but this one will be much different than any of the previous editions, which totals like 7 or 8 at this point. I think we started the state of the Voice of College Football, I'm guessing like 2016, 2017, something in that range. All right. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Defiant on the line.
Mark, I don't know what to say about this game. I never would have thought under those last couple years under Tom Allen, that we would get to a point where we could be called national champions.
It's astounding. It's astounding. We've seen it unfold now for 3 or 4 months, so it's not like it came out of well, it did come out of nowhere, but obviously we've had to see it coming because the playoffs are so long, but it still just doesn't seem. I looked at the game a couple times tonight, just the Indiana uniform on the field, the Indiana name on the screen connected to a national championship game, and I still just thought, this is crazy. I would have never thought this. If 2 years ago somebody would have said Miami's going to get back to a national championship game, I would have said, yeah, I don't really see it that soon, but okay. Who would they be playing? We would have had to sit here and list about 75, 80 teams before we would have hit Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, I was watching a video the other day, and this guy went back last couple of years he graphed out like the types of players each team had, national championship teams had. Indiana had the most seniors out of Ohio State and the last couple of national champion winners. And I looked at that, I'm like, interesting that they had the most seniors out of everybody else, including Ohio State from last year on the roster. They had like 45 seniors, and they also had a good, I think it was like 20 freshmen as well, but they had a heavy senior class.
I saw another stat where Indiana has about 40, don't remember the exact number, but about 40 players, the ages of 22, 23, 24, 25. The NFL has 140 some players, the ages of 21 and 22. So there are 140 players in the NFL that are younger than the 40 oldest players on the Indiana football team.
Yeah. I mean, it's just incredible what Cignetti has done in the portal, because, some of these guys did come over from the portal, but some of these guys were here under Tom Allen. So, I mean, what Cignetti has done is just incredible. Like, this is, like I was telling Matt the other day, this is like NCAA, like football, video game type, rebuilder here, building a team in 2 years. Like, this will never be done again in the way that Chris Cignetti has done so far these first 2 years.
Well, one of the reasons it's unlikely, I'm never one to say nothing's ever going to be done again. So I'll hold a little bit short of that, but I have no issue with you saying that, because most likely it's not going to be done again. One of the reasons why is just the probability of being 3-9. So there are only so many programs that are that bad. So you only have a few candidates out there, first of all. And then secondly, yeah, even with all the money available, you're still competing against the best. You're still competing with universities and football programs that have a huge advantage over you. Let's go through all the 3-9 football teams across America right now that are truly 3-9 football teams. I don't even think Arkansas went either 2-10 or 3-9 this year, and they couldn't even be compared to Indiana from 2 years ago. Arkansas was a far more advanced, far more successful football program, far more than Indiana was as of 2 years ago. So that wouldn't even be, and who could imagine Arkansas elevating, regardless of how good their new head coach is.
Yeah, for sure. And Arkansas for years has been getting money from the Waltons family, Walmart and everything. Yes. So they've been getting investments into that program. We just started getting investments once we started winning. Like, again, you look under Tom Allen and you see what we've been doing under Tom Allen. There was like no investments coming in because we weren't winning. And now under Coach Cignetti, we're already starting to get those investments.
Well, I will say, and I don't know what the ratio is in terms of money into the program, television, we call it television, media rights versus NIL versus now the revenue share, which is $16 to $17 million because it's 20.5 per university, and the split between football and basketball and anything else varies from school to school, but it's roughly like 80-20. So you put those three factors together. We know that Indiana, from the Big Ten media rights contract, is reaping like $95 million per season. So I would have to say the one thing that I did see or saw the opportunity for with us going into this new television rights contract was I did scratch my head a few times and say, why can't a lower echelon Big Ten team elevate? They get more media rights money than all these super programs in the SEC and in other conferences. Why can't they lift themselves up?
Mm-hmm. And your question got answered, Mark. Your question got answered.
It did.
And for a program you might have not thought would have be in this situation right now. But
No,
yeah, I don't know.
It's other ones. Yep.
for sure. Hey, I always thought I'm sorry, what I'm trying to say. Like, yeah, with the media rights deal, I thought we'd be respectable. I mean, 9-3, 10-2, sniffing that playoff. But just the way, again, Cignetti has done so far in his first 2 years is really taking me by surprise. I know we're in the new era now of the transfer portal, so I mean that process can be sped up a little bit faster than in years past, like Bill Snyder, Kansas State, and all that. I mean, again, different time, different era, but what he has done so far just to transform his program is just amazing, and he's got some recruits coming in for next season for transfer portal. So I mean, he's reloading right away. Like he's not really taking a break here; he's just trying to reload.
And again, I keep asking the question, and I don't anticipate anyone's going to answer it because I can't come up with the answer, and nobody's coming up with the answer. That again, if you take the individual talent evaluations on the Indiana football team, whether it's out of high school or it's out of high school for all of them, and then for the transfer players, they showed that their high school football evaluation was not correct, that they were better players than that, but they did not show to be superstars. They were productive players, usually at a lower level, James Madison, of course, but other programs, that we have not seen a national champion that has not ranked high, like top 3 or 4 on the blue chip scale. And that should hold true now. It should still hold true, even though maybe not quite as much, because you can, again, gather guys that outplayed their recruiting ranking. And they did that, but these were not great players elsewhere. I think it's astounding.
Yeah, I can't think of a team. Yeah, I can't think of a team that you want to have like a top 15 recruiting class and won a national championship. Like, I'm sure there probably is.
The worst one was Clemson.
Yeah,
whatever they were like 8th or 9th.
Yeah, but they're still top 10 though. They're still like top 10. Yeah, I don't. And Mendoza is going to probably be the best example of this. Coming out of high school, 2-star recruit who's going to go to an Ivy League school, and he decides to go to Cal, and he did great things at Cal. I mean, Cal really isn't a great football team. You kind of see that, but I think the coaching is really what has shaped a lot of these guys to get to that next level.
Yes.
And yes, I mean, again, it's not always the talent on the field as long as you could coach and develop these guys now. That's really what I think what the key is going forward is you can have, 50, bottom, 50, top 50 recruiting classes, but as long as you can coach these guys, then you'll be okay. I think now we're kind of seeing like these teams now really have to worry about how much, what's the high school recruiting class ranking? It's more, can you just develop these guys to be the best they can be? Because again, tonight, Indiana showed that as long as you have the coaching in place, you can win.
Yeah. And see, part of me, this is counterintuitive, but part of me would think that the further advanced we get in scouting, that they should be more accurate. Therefore, the blue chip ratio should mean more. But then on the other hand, I've always said that talent evaluation of 16 and 17-year-olds to me would be crazy difficult compared to what the NFL scouts do. That is much easier because they're dealing with grown men. That what might be taking hold here is that we know that these guys play more football than they ever have. meaning outside of the college or the high school football season and the junior high football season, they're playing in camps all the time. They're playing in all-star games more so than any. And we know that the ball skills of these quarterback and wide receivers is better than it's ever been because they get so many reps. They play year round, and the coaching and developing of the skills and the techniques and all of that is so far advanced than it's ever been, that maybe you take a guy who isn't a freak athlete, but he's so skilled. There's a difference between athleticism and skill, that obviously you have to have a measure of athleticism to a high degree, but that athletes that are well positioned to become skilled and coachable can elevate more so maybe today, because just they get in thousands of reps that they didn't get in 40 years ago.
But yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that's the type of player I think a lot of coaches are going to start looking at now. Really, again, not really focusing on, how athletic they are, but as long as you could coach them to get to that, have that athleticism, I think is really what I think the future of college football is going to be. Because again, we showed tonight that you don't have to have all this athleticism. As long as you have the skill and you can be coachable and you can build and develop more, you can win. And I mean, I think, like Georgia and Alabama in the past, they would develop a lot of these guys. That's how they kept winning. They would coach and develop these guys. And now you're starting to see other teams starting to implement just the development of these guys more than just going out and getting the best talent out there. Because not all the best talent's going to be coachable. A lot of them have egos. A lot of them say, like, hey, I want to be the main guy or whatever. But like Mendoza said, these guys on the team, they're all looking out for each other. Mendoza doesn't have to go out there and be the best quarterback ever. He just has to be able to make throws and keep developing.
Yeah, the best talent's going to win most of the time, but it appears as though we see an example of slightly lesser talent, and probably also a large component, like we've addressed, of tremendous talent that was not recognized, maybe underdeveloped, just didn't come to fruition, didn't mature at the high school ranks. And then those guys, that Indiana football team, both football teams really play extremely hard. Those might be the two hardest hitting football teams in America. Which shows us that football is still a physical game. For as much as it's been legislated against, it's still a physical game, and you're going to win being physical.
Yeah, I think Mendoza getting his lip busted is kind of proof of that, Mark.
Yes.
But yeah, sure. But last thing I will say again, the talent's going to be there. But again, if you just can get the coaching right, that talent's going to exceed a lot of times, for the most part.
Absolutely. All right, Defiant, appreciate you being here, man.
Thank you, Mark.
Good to see everyone here at the Voice of College Football. A lot of great comments there in the comments section. Let me know if you want me to address any of these, which we've got a few here to address, so we will. Evil Badger 72. People need to understand that college football has changed from 4 to 5 years ago. Congrats, Indiana, for winning your first natty. Yeah, I don't doubt that everyone recognizes that college football has changed in the last 4 or 5 years, but I think we're still trying to grasp exactly the ramifications of the changes. We know how it's changed. There's a transfer portal and there's NIL. Those things are huge, massive changes to the game. But what would the ramifications be? How would they change the sport? And I don't still think that that's necessarily obvious. All right. Adam says, Mark, recruiting stars are arbitrary and overrated. Boy, we should have an argument about that sometime. What wins titles is discipline, consistency, execution, perseverance, resilience, work ethic, and intelligence. Did I see athleticism in there anywhere? Discipline, consistency, execution, perseverance, resilience, work ethic, intelligence, all of that. And my percentages will probably be off to some degree. It's incalculable, but I would say all those things are like 30% put together, and athleticism is 70%. There's probably somebody in the chat, probably not myself, but one of you out there that has discipline, consistency, execution, perseverance, resilience, work ethic, and intelligence more than maybe anybody out there on the field tonight, possibly. But you can't play a lick of football. So athleticism is still first and foremost. That's why Indiana won, and it is something that applies to life, not just football. Great comment, Adam. Thank you so much for that. And of course, our buddy Jackson Johnson is here, letting everyone know we are now only 222 days until week 0. Can't wait to see these matchups. I see that he's got them down there. Let's get to them. But once we hit midnight, it will be only 221 days until week 0, where North Carolina will play TCU. So understand they played on opening weekend this past year. And then we got NC State playing Virginia. All right, looking forward to those week 0 matchups. And then we've got Adam coming back with this one. Mark, as this season concludes, how has your perspective on college football changed? What do you think of college football now as opposed to the 70s, 80s, or 90s? Do you have the same level of interest? Okay, I'll answer your last question first because it's the easiest one to answer. No, I do not have the same level of interest for college football, for sports. It's not even close. So I would follow that up with another statement, but that statement's probably going to come on Friday. Yeah, my level of interest of college football is not anywhere close to what it was. It's still very high compared to the average American. It's through the roof. I still love college football. Didn't miss a play tonight. Still watch bowl games that a lot of people don't think matter. Still watch college football at noon every Saturday through the midnight hour, talking college football, spending 15 hours involved in it every Saturday. All of that. Love college football. And again, my level of interest is through the ceiling compared to the average American, probably compared to the average college football fan even. However, my level of interest of college football, the NFL, Major League Baseball as well, was not through the roof 25 years ago. It was to the moon. I, on a regular basis, would meet people and they would get to know me and they would say this. And I'm not saying this in any kind of bragging way because this is nothing to brag about, being an obnoxious sports fan. But people would regularly tell me, I'd hear this every day at ESPN and other places. This guy knows more than anyone. This guy is crazy. He knows every stat in the book and all that stuff. I would hear that every day. So my level of interest could not have gotten any higher. So I've maybe reached a level of sanity, hopefully, in my latter years, and gained a little perspective on life. And I'm not that concerned where I'm staying up till 2:00 in the morning every night of the week because I can't go to bed until every West Coast baseball game is off the air. Those kind of things. Yes. But the other questions there are more difficult to answer. So college football has never been better on the field in terms of athleticism. The athleticism and the playmaking ability just gets better and better and better all the time. All you have to do is take a game on YouTube from 20 years ago, 40 years ago. They're fun to watch. I do it all the time. I'd rather watch those games than watch this game, but the athleticism doesn't compare. The coaching, at some point, again, analytics changed the game as well, and for the better, because not that it's a better product necessarily, but it just, coaches are making decisions that actually make sense. where coaches by nature have always been conservative. And I used to watch NFL games and college football games, and I'm not saying that I'm ultra smart or figured this out before anyone, but I used to sit there in my probably once I got into my 20s, we're talking like 30 years ago, and used to watch NFL games and college football games and think, let's see, it's 4th and 3. This football team's at the other team's 37-yard line. They're probably not going to hit a 54-yard field goal because their kicker's not that good. So that's probably like a 30% try. That's not worth the risk. It's 4th and 3. This is a competitive football game. If they punt the football, unless their punter's extraordinary and kicks it inside the 5, routinely you would see these punters kick it into the end zone, and they only picked up 17 yards. And I think, was that worth picking up 17 yards? Not taking the risk to maintain possession of the football. So you're keeping the ball away from the other team. You are possessing the football for longer. And obviously you have a chance to score. And I think, I wonder if these teams just kept going for it on the plus side of the 50, whether that would be a good play to make instead of punting constantly on 4th and 1 at the other team's 40-yard line, and sometimes hitting a coffin corner, but other times hitting the ball into the end zone and only picking up 20 yards and giving away one of your possessions out of only the precious 10 or 12 that you have for the game. So that has significantly improved. All right. Too many comments to get to. So if you have something for me to respond to or want to tell the world whatever you've got to say about college football, please include a super chat contribution. In the meantime, we will get to our next call. We got Michael Hogue stopping by.
Hey, Mark, you broke my heart earlier.
I broke your heart. What did I say?
When you and Dave, we talked about Hoosiers.
Oh, that I never saw the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Never say never. Come on, check it out sometime. But anyway,
I don't see myself investing 2.5 hours in a movie I don't want to watch. No, I'm not saying it's not a great movie. It probably is.
Yeah. But anyway, when you just talk about punters, one punter came to mind because he always hit the coffin corner, and that would be Mr. Ray Guy.
He has that reputation. The only thing I'll say, Michael, is a lot of players in certain eras have reputations that I don't know would necessarily meet our standard today. It would be interesting to see all of Ray Guy's career opportunities to hit a coffin corner punt and how many times he was successful. I don't know. He's the first punter to be elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
I would think his percentage of coffin corner kicks is pretty successful.
Oh, you would think it was, but I don't know for sure.
Another thing is I'm battling mixed emotions right now too, Mark, and I need Dr. Mark's help.
Well, I would guess, Michael, if somebody would have asked me, what is Michael Hogue's reaction to this Indiana National Championship going to be? I would have thought, you know what? Based on our conversations, it's probably mixed because you're obviously a Purdue fan. So that is your chief rival winning a national championship when if anybody on the college football map would have been asked years ago, who's going to win a national championship first in football, Indiana or Purdue? Anybody with any common sense would have said Purdue because obviously Purdue is a much better football playing school than Indiana. And I want somebody to clip that and put it out there because I sound like a complete idiot saying that. But yes, traditionally, Purdue is a much better football school than Indiana. But obviously, you've also called here many times and stuck up for Indiana. And you have seemed to, I don't know about root for Indiana, but at least recognize them as a good football program or a good football team even before this season. You would call many times last season and talk about how impressed you were with Indiana.
Yeah, the reason why it's mixed emotions is because like I said, lifelong Purdue fan with an IU degree.
Oh, I forgot that.
Yeah, but anyway, for the most part tonight, I thought it was well officiated, except for the couple missed hits on Mendoza they should have flagged. Because if they flagged IU for the roughing the passer, how come they didn't get the targeting on Miami when Mendoza's lip was busted?
Well, Michael, when it comes to officiating, I know that that's your game, and so I give it up to you. I did not have that perspective on the game. I did not think it was a horribly officiated game, but I actually sent out a tweet tonight that the refs were off their game.
Oh, I liked it when they played tonight. That's how it should be for a national championship.
I thought that the pass interference calls were inconsistent, were not always applied, were all over the place.
I think they only called one for each team. So
yeah, they should have called more. I hate to see a team advance up and down the field based on pass interference calls.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that maybe should be corrected. It's almost like the was it the balk in Major League Baseball that they actually said one season, we're going to start calling because there's a balk on almost every pitch in Major League Baseball. My initial thought and everybody else's was, well, the game's going to suck because there's going to be constant balks. But the pitchers adjusted, and I think the same thing should happen with pass interference in college and NFL, or change the rules, because there's pass interference on almost every play.
Exactly.
By the book.
Stuff like that. And I guess I seen on Twitter after the game that a Miami player started swinging at someone for me, but
he did what?
Catch it.
A Miami player did what?
Started swinging, throwing punches at an IU player.
Oh, that's classy.
Yeah, but no, man, it's a great game tonight, and I'm glad it was a good one too. But anyway, when was the last time you've seen a team getting the ball after your team scores and they get called for a delayed game?
Yeah, that's bad. Well, actually, I've seen it quite a few times. I see that happen. It should never happen, but in a national championship game with the game on the line,
yeah,
that's horrible. But no, I see that happen quite a few times. I bet I see that 5 times this season.
Okay, sure. Maybe I've seen it a few times too. But I got to ask you this, though. When Signetti pulled him off there, the field goal, what was it, 20, I think it was like 17, 14 or something like that?
Yes.
On the 4th and 5, when they went back out there, what was you thinking?
Okay, my quick 1 second reaction was, what's he doing? He's got to kick the field goal, of course, because we can all do the addition and figure out that 4th and 5 is tough to get, especially against one of the best defenses in the country. And you got to go up by 6 because then you take the field goal off the table for the other team. But then I thought about it and said, you know what? His offensive coordinator's really good. He has a feel for this game. Look, he's the best coach in college football at this point. He's got a great feel for his team. He knows their capabilities. He's got great confidence in his quarterback. And actually, he wants to get to a 2-score lead and knows that he has exponentially raised the probability that his team is going to win with a 2-score lead with, I believe, 9 minutes left, or it might have been 6 minutes left, than with a 6-point lead with a 1-score lead.
Yeah. Another thing, I'm kind of surprised too, because I know they did this throughout the season, but I'm surprised they didn't do more RPOs tonight. I'm surprised they Brett Shanahan didn't call more RPOs for IU tonight.
Well, he probably didn't want Fernando Mendoza to get led up by those defensive ends all night.
Yeah, sure, but he did have good runs and stuff like that. Though, but
they were playing the best tandem of defensive ends in the country.
Sure, but no, I am with you though. Maybe not the best, maybe the second best team. But who do you think could be a team that fired perfectly back shoulder fade like that he did tonight?
One of the other callers mentioned that. I didn't see it that way. You thought Fernando Mendoza was throwing perfect back shoulder throws?
Yeah, on those two, on the third down when they converted to get the first downs.
I thought that they were great plays by the wide receiver. I didn't think I'd have to go back and watch those throws because I was not impressed with them.
Because if you would watch IU, well, I know you can much because it will take you the rest of the time to watch every single play for IU. But it seemed like when IU was in that situation, it was every single boom, boom, boom. And last couple last things. First of all, I hope you get better soon. By the way, it looks like you're battling sinus infection.
But you're talking about tonight's game,
yeah,
right?
Also, but if you watch maybe IU throughout the season and key plays like in the, I think it was a couple. I can't remember if it was a third down play or the fourth in the Big Ten championship.
Yeah.
If it was a back shoulder again that won the game, basically won the game.
So I misunderstood your comment. I thought you were talking about tonight's game.
Well,
if you're talking about the entire season, that's a different question.
I guess, yeah, different. I guess you can phrase it like that. That's
yes,
what I'm trying to.
Tonight, I did not think that Indiana was excellent throwing the back shoulder. I thought Charlie Becker made great adjustments on the football, but the back shoulder throws were not that good. They were actually horrible.
Yeah. Maybe they were, I don't know. But you're the expert compared to me. So anyway, no, I was just wondering stuff like that now. Yes, I know it's January 20th at 12:48 a.m., but am I too crazy to say that the Big Ten will get the 4-piece next year?
Well, the Big Ten looks to be the conference that's got the most elite teams, the most number of teams that can be elite. So I would bet on the Big Ten if I had to. Now, who's that going to be is anyone's guess. Now, we've seen a different champion every year. So if that's going to continue, I guess Oregon would be the first one in line.
Yeah. Speaking of Oregon, how's that going to work with both Dante Moore and Dominic Raiola next year?
Well, unless something drastically changed to make Dominic Raiola, Dylan Raiola.
I'm sorry.
A much better passer than Dante Moore. Dante Moore's the starting quarterback. He's a superior quarterback to Dylan Raiola.
No, I was just wondering stuff like that. Okay. Get better. I hope it's not the series. Take the NyQuil. Take the DayQuil.
No, I'm fine, Michael, but I appreciate your concern.
All right.
Thanks, Michael.
All right. It's Friday night at 7 o'clock, right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
If you've got the time, be here.
I will do that. All right, Mark. Take care, man.
We'll see you. Yes, Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern time is the State of the Voice of College Football. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, every offseason we, just much like the State of the Union address, that's where I got the title there, the State of the Voice of College Football, for somewhere close to a 7th or 8th consecutive offseason. We typically do it about a month after the national championship game, but for certain reasons, we will do that much sooner. So find out what's going on at the Voice of College Football. It will be a State of the Union address like no other. All right. Next up here at the Voice of College Football, we got our buddy Keith stopping by. Keith, what's going on?
Hey, Mark. How you doing?
Hey, Keith. Doing well. How are you?
Good. Yeah. Of course, Indiana, Signetti, Mendoza, Hoosier Nations, all the big winners today.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you say, 3 years ago, none of us would have seen this. You would have gone, like you said, about 80, 85 teams before we put Indiana in that list.
Remarkable.
Yeah. And it was you that said this is the first one-score game since 2017 or something?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a really, really fun game to watch, and probably see really good TV numbers off of it too.
I would think so.
Yeah. But the next level of winners really isn't it the Big Ten?
Yes.
Yeah, because the Big Ten just doesn't seem to be able to lose these days.
Well, I would say this, that when people argue and debate best conference, everyone knows who won the national championship. Otherwise, you're not arguing if you don't have enough knowledge to know who the national champion is. So if you know who the national champion is and what conference they come from, that's where you can start the argument, because most teams don't walk around with a encyclopedic knowledge of what each conference's record is against the other conferences. So, and that is the most significant part of the sport. Everybody's playing for a championship. That's why they play the games, to win the championship. So the Big Ten has done that 3 years in a row. And even if we're just evaluating this season, it's hard not to think about that this season is just even more justified by what happened the previous season and the previous season to that. And that Big Ten football teams, it almost confirms that they just continue to, and that they're different teams. It's not like there's a Clemson dynasty and the ACC's garbage. It's that there's a third team in 3 years that's won it. And there was a team that they played in the semifinal that didn't win it, that made it to the semifinal. And there was this team in the semifinals last year that didn't win it, that still made it for the Big Ten. So there have been 3 straight national champions from the Big Ten from different teams, but there's also been 2 other semifinalists that weren't even among those 3 teams.
Yeah. So Indiana shows one other thing that I think people underestimate, is that the Big Ten is basically full of good to elite players. Every single team in there, even the Purdue's and Maryland's, get the right coach, and they'll lift this talent, this base of talent that's in the Big Ten. And the SEC qualifies for this too, as well as elite programs from the other conferences, Clemson's, Miami's, those guys. That there's a lot of good players in college football, and if you get the right coach in there, they'll lift them up. That's what Harbaugh did with Michigan.
So I guess, so you bring a lot of astute comments to the table here, Keith. I guess I'm not quite understanding this one. How is that different than past seasons in the Big Ten, that there are good to elite players in the conference?
Indiana's rise, that they can, that Cignetti can rise a program like Indiana. And you got to remember, most of his transfers were coming in from James Madison. They weren't elite players to begin with. They were just good,
Sure,
solid football players. And that if you get the right coach in there, and Cignetti is the right coach, elsewhere in the league, Whittingham might be for Michigan, and Campbell might be for Penn State. Might start to lift those programs up into more elite status. If you get the right coaching in, you've got a good base of players throughout the league. I think any team has the potential to do what Indiana did if they get the right coaching in there.
totally agree. And that's one of the points I made, and I said this to a previous caller, that when the Big Ten, not that the Big Ten was broke before they signed this latest media deal, they were neck and neck with the SEC in terms of media revenue. But when they jumped out in front of the revenue share from the media rights deal that they signed a couple of years ago, when Kevin Warren handed it over to Tony Petitti, at one point I started to bring this up. What is the excuse at Indiana, Minnesota, Illinois, fill in the blank? What is the excuse? You have a major university, you've got a state university, you have more media revenue than everybody in the SEC. Why do we have this mentality that only like 3 schools in the Big Ten can win championships and nobody else has a chance? Like, and so if you take the name off of Indiana football, other than playing in the Midwest where there's not a whole lot of football players in the state of Indiana, they've got decent. When you look at their 4 and 5 stars in the state of Indiana in football, it's not bad, but it's not. It's about on par with Michigan. It's not horrible, but it's not in the top 8 or 10. Other than that, they have all sorts of advantages. They have a huge alumni base, rich alumni, a major school, major university, and more TV rights money than anybody in the country outside the Big Ten.
Yeah. And I heard you say that, and it makes a lot of sense. And yeah, the NIL and the transfer portal is sure leveling the field.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
In a sense, you know, I made this comment a number of times when people asked me, how is this going to change college football? And I said, well, you know what? I don't know, but it can go one of two ways. Either the NIL is going to exacerbate the disparity, and the rich are just going to get richer because the same schools that right now, aside from the money that was under the table paid to players, was pouring all that money into recruiting budgets and into facilities and all that sort of thing, is now going to be able to pay players. So I thought, well, maybe Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama on down the line are going to be able to elevate even more and disappear, or it will allow schools that maybe not, that don't draw players based on their reputation and brand, can flat out just say, hey, we got this coach. He's a young, exciting coach, or he's a new coach, and we've got money for you. And instead of playing behind a couple 5 stars somewhere else, you can play here immediately.
Yeah. I have some big thoughts on that stuff, but probably not get it in tonight. We can get that in the next few weeks as we get into the off season. But I'll just close with this. On that last interception, I saw something, and I played at a low level and I coached at a low level. But I saw something I never saw in coaching in defensive backfield today.
Yeah.
It looked like Indiana baited Beck into throwing that pass. Because if you see that cornerback, he trails that receiver about 3 yards. And when he gets to the 15 or the 10-yard line, he breaks off the coverage, and you can see the safety coming in to pick up the deep coverage, and he intercepts. He runs straight for the path of the ball if it was thrown to that open guy. And it looked like they baited him to perfection and got the easy pick.
All right, Keith, that's a great evaluation I think you've got there, because Herb Street went over the play, but he didn't really size it up quite that way. And I kind of thought the same way. I thought that safety kind of was able to judge how much can I drift that way and not make it obvious. And then once the Beck's looking that way and just about ready to deliver, he sprints deeper than the receiver. He was going to make sure that he was behind him and then could be right there, while, like you say, the corner just kind of let up a little bit and provided that bracket coverage, and then the ball was pretty much thrown right to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, it just appeared like, if we're thinking the same thing, that they thought, okay, they're picking us apart down the field, ding, doing, boom, 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 that if we show them something where they think, boom, we can win the game right here, there it is, we got it, one-on-one, that we can make a play and stop this drive.
Yeah, and it's a standard coverage in football to roll the cornerback up for short coverages and let the safety cover the deep, and you get a lot of pick sixes. The early pick against Ohio State and the Will Johnson got it in the 23 game, I think it was.
Yes.
Right at the beginning of the game, and he rolled up. Will Johnson was famous for rotating those coverage on his own without cooperation from other safeties. He would take a little bit of heat from the players and the coaches for doing it, but he was highly successful. He was getting these pick sixes when he did it.
Hey, Keith, not to cut you off, but something happened to your audio.
Okay, I think I drift away. I get excited.
All right, we can barely hear you, but we appreciate you being here, Keith. All right. Have a good night, Keith. Absolutely. Thanks, man.
Congratulations to Indiana and Defiant.
All right, and congratulations to all of us here at the Voice of College Football. We made it through another college football season. Indiana defeats Miami to win the school's first national championship final from Miami. Indiana 27, Miami 21. What a game. First one-score game in the national championship game since 2017. More calls coming in, but we also have a super chat contribution from Trojan Fight. And this is an astute comment here. So schedule cupcakes to win natties. The last three national champions all scheduled 3 cupcakes in non-conference. So Indiana played Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, and Indiana State. They won the national championship. Ohio State played 3 nobodies. They did not play a power conference team. Washington was on the schedule. They dropped them. Voila. Washington joined the Big Ten. We know why that game was dropped. Michigan the year before did not play anyone. They played 3 cupcakes. That's the Indiana style of scheduling. Now for Ohio State and Michigan, that just happened to be kind of a one-off of scheduling no one. For Michigan, it was kind of a 2-off. 2 consecutive years, they scheduled no one in non-conference play. And for Ohio State that particular year, they played no one. So I think it's coincidence, but you've got some evidence there of at least being able to kind of ease your way into the season, stay healthy, work on things, work on fundamentals, work on play calls, work on all those things that you work on early in the season, especially with young players, possibly aiding the cause long-term. And we remind everyone that this Friday is the State of the Voice of College Football, 7 p.m. Eastern Time this Friday. Please be here. We got our buddy Michigan man, Ben, stopping by. Ben, what's going on?
Hey, what's up, man? As someone who's not an Indiana fan, man, I'm not even joking. Even though, during the game I felt Indiana was going to win this game, when the clock actually hit 0, I was in shock. Genuinely. It's hard to explain. I don't know if you felt this way, but just coming to the realization that Indiana just went 16-0, I was in a state of disbelief.
Yeah.
And I think your previous caller said something about, just get great coaches, and do this, do that. There's nothing analogous to what Kirsignetti did. There's nothing that you can even compare it. There's not another example coaching that you can even compare it to. He completely broke the mold.
That's true.
What you say all the time is recruiting is the actual lifeblood of a program, right? High school recruiting.
Yeah.
He didn't win off high school recruiting. He won off of getting guys out the portal and bringing guys along that nobody in the power conferences wanted, and just purely coaching them to levels that no one thought that they could be coached to.
I can't explain it except great coaching, because you know as well as I do that this is the first national championship in the modern age since recruiting rankings that did not have a top 10 roster in the sport. And the quick answer to that would be, well, because of the transfer portal. But it's not like he had this number 50 football team handed to him by Tom Allen. And then he got in the transfer portal and started to pull in Caleb Downs and Quinshawn Judkins and all these stars from all over the place and brought in 40 of those. He brought in 40 guys, mostly that were anonymous and were not, there were good college football level players, but good, most of them G5 level players, not great players, not all conference or all American players, but good players, productive players, but the type players that collectively should win 6 games in the Big Ten, maybe. It's astounding.
Yeah.
You're right. It's unprecedented what he pulled off.
Yeah, so like when people say, you know, this could be an example of, oh, just get a better coach. You can't use this example. It's such an outlier what he's doing. It's maybe this is going to sound crazy, but this is up there with like Miracle on Ice type stuff. This is the most astonishing championship I can even think of, Mark. I can't think of something that's just more. You want to talk about Cinderella? Now I know,
totally agree.
yeah, and I know Cinderella is typically supposed to mean, you know, like this team wasn't like, maybe they were okay throughout the season, so you know they were just dominant. But still, it kind of still has that Cinderella aura, just because they were such a nobody program for so long, and in 2 years, this guy went 16-0.
Yeah, the true Cinderella would have been Indiana. Barely makes the playoffs. They had lost 3 games in the regular season, and then they had a string of just remarkable, you know, field goals going off the upright, scooping scores, deflected passes, blocked punts, and they won a bunch of 21-19 games, and they won it. But that would have been more kind of like the Miracle on Ice, kind of the storybook, kind of like ragtag thing. No, this is way more
This is even more impressive. Yeah, I was going to say, this is even more impressive.
Because they became a dominant. Like, if you would have said 3 years ago, Indiana's going to win the national championship, obviously all of us would have said, are you kidding me? That's a joke. But if you would have said Indiana's going to win the national championship and they're going to beat Alabama by 5 touchdowns and they're going to beat Oregon by 5 touchdowns in the process, then that really would have been like, what?
Yeah, and Mark, I don't know if this game's going to affect it, but going into this game, the Indiana had, except maybe 2020 Alabama had more, but I know they had a larger margin of victory than even 2019 LSU did. So you're right. It's actually even more impressive than a Cinderella team because he skipped that stage. He jumped that stage. He went past that.
Ben, I sent out a tweet the other day, and I said, role reversal. Ohio State players, and this is after the Oregon game, I said Ohio State players can now be proud that they stayed within 3 points of Indiana. It's like where in the past it'd be like, well, Indiana would be happy to stay within 20 points of Ohio. Now Ohio State players should be bragging that they stayed within 3 points of Indiana.
My best friend's an Ohio State fan, right? He literally said that to me tonight. He's like, you know, it's actually impressive that we was able to stay within 3 points of this 16-0 team. It's insane.
Yeah, and lose on a 4th down play or a missed field goal, whichever you want to go with. But yeah.
Speaking of 4th down plays, that might have been the ballsiest call I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Was that 4th and 5? It wasn't just that they called the 4th and 5. It was the play, a QB draw.
Yeah.
I mean, man. You want to talk about they might not even make a 30 for 30 mark. They might just make a full length feature film on this. This might be in the theaters.
They could. Especially with the coach being as entertaining as he is. If they could get
100%.
Yeah, that he's got a great line every time. He's just it's phenomenal.
You know, a lot of championships, you know, they win it and you kind of celebrate for a couple months, but then honestly, once, you know, the new season rolls around, most of the time people just kind of move on. This is the type of championship that you talk about forever. Right? This is never not going to be like, brought up, or like 2019 LSU still brought up to this day just because of how crazy they were. This is kind of similar. This is the type of championship I think people will talk about for 50 years.
Yeah, I'll sure be talking about it as long as I've talked about college football, because again, it's unprecedented. The best example I could come up with was and this fails on a number of levels, but Auburn was 3-9 in 2012, and Gus Malzahn was named the new head coach, and they came within one play, the last play of the game, of winning the national championship. But that's Auburn. So they went 3-9 because they were dysfunctional and all of that. They still had a top 20 talent roster. And they didn't win the national championship the next year. And again, Auburn, they just won the national championship 3 years before that. So it's Auburn. But from a sheer record standpoint, they did go 3-9 and then come within one play of winning the national championship the next year.
Yeah, 100%. I got a good question. Here, do you think, fairly or unfairly, probably unfairly, that the success of Curt Cignetti, especially with his use of the portal, is just going to put more pressure on bigger programs and their coaches to get it done quicker?
Well, I think it does them for sure. That why can't Dan Lanning win a national championship? Why didn't James Franklin win a national championship when they were given programs that are so far ahead? But it also puts pressure on just the same tier of program. And the first program that comes to mind, I just randomly selected Kansas State at the top of my head. And actually that was a far more advanced program than Indiana. I don't know how much the Kansas State fan base thinks about national championships, but there's got to be all sorts of college football fans sitting around tonight looking at that and thinking, why not us? Why couldn't we do that? We were actually all this time better than Indiana. Our Purdue guy, Michael, stopped by a couple calls ago, and it sounds ridiculous now, but basically for my entire lifetime, Purdue's been a better football program than Indiana. I would have thought that they would have won a national championship before Indiana. I didn't think they would, but if you gave me the choice between the two, that would have been them. Think about this. Arkansas went 3-9 this year, just like Indiana did 2 years ago. Does anybody see Arkansas winning a national championship? And their football tradition is zillions of light years past Indiana. Yeah, Curt Cignetti is doing
changed the game. He changed the game. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not just that it's impressive. It's also going to have I think a crazy impact on the sport that goes even deeper than we think it might, because there's probably so many ADs and ADs that are sitting thinking, wait a minute, we recruit at the highest level, we hire the best coaches, we invest all this money. This guy over in Bloomington took a box of paper clips and just went 16-0. Why can't we do the same? Why can't we do that? The ripple effects, I think, we're going to start seeing ripple effects of pressure on everything, because there's no excuses. How can you have an excuse after this if you're an elite program? You can't have any excuses anymore. I don't know how you can.
You can't.
And I'll say this, man. I think Nick Saban. I think Nick Saban knew. I think Nick Saban, back when Curt Cignetti was there, I think one of the reasons Curt Cignetti, started at a lower level, I think he knew Curt Cignetti was going to cook. I don't think he wanted that competition there, man. I really believe that. I think Curt Cignetti 101, man, and I'm excited to see. I don't think he's done. I got no reason to believe. I got no reason to believe he can't win more championships. Give me a reason why he can't keep doing it.
Yeah, because this is only going to help him attract more talent and better talent.
Mark, imagine if he built a dynasty in Indiana, man. I mean, the fact we even talking about that.
Well, there's NFL fan bases that want him.
Who doesn't want him? Look, man. I think every team, if they're being honest with themselves, they probably fire their coach right now and hire him if they could. I don't think there's a team that maybe Ohio State, but I don't know, man. I don't even know. I know that's crazy, but I don't even know. If you could hire Kirsten Eddy, would you? I don't know. I would.
Like Ryan Day's been really good, but what has he done that we already knew that was possible? We already knew that if you're a good football coach, you take that over from Urban Meyer and you go whatever his record is, 87-12 or whatever. Yeah, that's really impressive. It's not like he's not doing a good job, but he's pretty much on par with what he should be doing versus Curt Cignetti. Maybe he'd never lose a game at Ohio State. I don't know.
Curt Cignetti, first of all, the statue's already built. I mean, they're probably going to start building it tonight. He can retire right now, and people are going to say I'm living in the moment. I don't think I am. I think this championship he just won alone, he's already in the Hall of Fame. He already, to me, is one of the greatest coaches I'll ever see. Just one I weigh things. This championship to me is worth multiple championships. It's not.
Well, the thing we just said about the Hall of Fame is you should be right, but technically you won't be right because they have a bunch of stupid rules for the Hall of Fame. That, if you hang around for 12 years and go 8-4 every year, you'll make the Hall of Fame. But if you do something that's historic like this, if you don't coach long enough, you won't make the Hall of Fame. Pete Carroll is not eligible for the Hall of Fame. So, yeah, that's stupid. But, yeah, I get your point. He's a Hall of Fame coach, like, right now. Yes.
Wait, say what? That's a rule?
Yeah, you have to coach 10 years.
Wait. So you could have the greatest accomplishment, period, and not get in just because you didn't coach long enough?
You can win 9 consecutive national championships and retire and not go to the Hall of Fame.
They got to change that, today.
You have to coach 10 years, and you have to have at least a 60% winning percentage. And they even then changed that just to let Mike Leach in. Now, if you have to change a rule to let one guy in, then that's a stupid rule. I'm all for guidelines. I understand having guidelines. That means you think, okay, in this category, we really need to look at this because you should have a 60% winning, but not a rule like Howard Schnellenberger started 3 different programs. Well, what happens when you start programs is you lose because you're no good and, it takes time to build. So Howard Schnellenberger doesn't have a 60% winning percentage because he had to reconstruct programs, but he should be in the Hall of Fame. So he's not in the Hall of Fame but you could go 8-4, 7-5, back and forth for 10 years and be eligible for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's wild, man. I think Curt Cignetti should get his own room.
Here's another one for you. You have to have been a first team All-America to be eligible for the Hall of Fame. And I looked at this one time and I saw where in 2014, 15, Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey, Ezekiel Elliott, and I'm missing somebody else, Leonard Fournette. There were 5 amazing running backs. So they couldn't all be first team. They couldn't even all be second team All-Americans, but you got to leave those guys out of the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's stupid.
Stupid rule.
It should be, like you said, a guideline where we consider it, but we should be able to be okay, this accomplishment is so great, we got to put them in there.
Yeah. I would expect most players in the College Football Hall of Fame to be All-Americans, but then there are exceptions. Yeah.
Yeah, if you had just played one, let's say you just played one season, let's say you had a career-ending injury, but that one season was historic, you should be able to be put in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
100%. All right, I'm going to get out of here, Mark, but the greatest championship of all time, Michigan and Indiana and Ohio State holding up the Big Ten. We are now the most dominant conference, SEC. You are no longer the premier conference. We are, and just to keep the rivalry juicy, Indiana and Michigan, we went undefeated. We won our natty. Ohio State, you got that little Mickey Mouse 2-loss natty. All right. All right. Go Blue, Indiana. Congratulations. I think y'all are here to stay.
All right, man. Thanks for stopping by. All right. We are here at the Voice of College Football, and I see that Cheryl made a note to the chat that she's been here for 12 years. 12 years. Wow. I was just a kid 12 years ago. I didn't have any gray in my beard. Goodness gracious. Well, thank you for that, Cheryl. Thank you so much for the loyalty and support, for sure. You know that. All right. We're finally going to get our buddy George in here. George has been at the end of the line, and he's popped in and back and forth. George, how you doing?
Mark, I've lost my connection like 3 or 4 times. I don't know what to do.
Nah,
I think we only have a couple.
You're looking
I
good.
think we might only have a couple of minutes before it goes out again.
Well, give us your best.
I moved to bum nowhere, Oregon, to get out of Portland. So,
well, that was probably a good move.
Hey, anyway, what a game.
Yeah.
Miami is back.
You were rooting for Miami, you told us the other night.
Listen, I was wrong on every count. I said, I think Indiana will cover the spread, but I hope Miami wins.
Well, George, I was wrong too. I picked Indiana to win by 7. They won by 6. So I was wrong.
You see the problem. Everybody in America, 80% of the gambling public lost money today. That's so bad. That's so sad.
Yeah, they should have been listening to me.
Miami fans that bet are celebrating. Aren't they?
I hope not. Their team lost the national championship.
But they won their wager. They won their parlay.
Depending on how much they won.
Yeah, I don't know.
So, as it turns out, I guess, did Duke have a more successful season than Miami since they won the ACC championship? At least they won a championship. Oh, we're starting to lose you, George.
Tough call right there.
Okay. We got you.
Oh, I go outside if I pick up. Tell me. Hey, wasn't it great seeing a emotionless, spiritually drained Carson Beck because he's dating some porn star versus the good Christian boy that loves Jesus?
Do we really know that
It was
Carson Beck is? Do we really know that about Carson Beck's lady?
It pops up on when I type in Miami Hurricane football. It's one of the things that comes up. Is he really dating a porn star? And we saw him tonight. He had no energy. He didn't rally his team. And then we got the good boy over there that prays the rosary on the way to the game. You know he ain't doing no freaky shit. God bless America. The Christians won. Hey, do you know that every football player, it's a signal to their masters? Every single football player gives all praise, glory, honor to Jesus. Not one of them's ever said a good word about Allah or Buddha or Hare Krishna. Nobody. It's a 100% Christian thing. Every single player. I'm like, but already, come on. Are they going into the ministry? They want to set up a trust. That's what it is, a nonprofit. Holy shit. No one's doing that for Allah. He put you right on the watch list.
Yeah, I enjoy hearing that as long as they're being sincere.
Right. Yeah. They're all sincere, Mark. Who's Charlie Becker? Is that like Rick James' cousin? Or I keep hearing this name, Charlie Becker.
Charlie Becker is a wide receiver for Indiana. Did you see the game tonight? Charlie Becker made some crazy catches tonight.
Love Indy so much. Listen, this just goes to prove that all coaches should rally your teams. Let's work together and play as one and not have penalties, because no coach ever thought to say that before. He's the first one that figured it out. Tell your players to play discipline. Don't have penalties. Follow the script. He's the first one that figured it out. Amazing. After 200 years, someone finally figured it out to coach up your players and tell them they're winners and you can do this. Wow. That was amazing to behold.
Did you
The only
ever
disciplined football team in the history of the world.
Did you ever consider going into coaching, George?
I would go into halftime coaching. I'll give the halftime speech.
Okay. Why not?
Vulgarity. I could do that.
Yeah, you could do that. I could see it.
I don't want to split my money, though. I could probably get the same amount of money just speech or half as. If it was, I might do it. It's just so ridiculous, isn't it? You know what? Someday we're going to look back. Someday we're going to look back on this and laugh at ourselves, like how we really believed it all. We can't believe that the people that told you we went to the moon and kidnapped the president of Venezuela, bombed Tokyo, and the Earth is round and we're spinning there. Those same people couldn't fix or lie about a football game. Hell no. Football's real. And I'm going to keep telling myself that.
We're watching this for no reason?
No.
This is just wrestling, basically.
Well, listen, you don't know who's going to win for the game. You don't know the point spread. Nothing has changed. Keep guessing. Hey, listen, it's easier to get right now that you know. You know it's going by a scenario. What's the scenario? What's going to go down here? You know? It's easier to pick.
The call is pretty rough here in terms of the audio here. So
yeah, I wandered off on a tangent, and now the NSA is breaking down our phone call. I love myself sometimes.
Enjoy your beverage.
Hey, what I say is funny as long as I'm joking. If I was serious, it wouldn't be funny. So take that.
You always deliver.
Anyway,
George.
I really do want to say congratulations to Indiana and Miami. At least they made it a game, man.
Yeah, it was a great game.
It was fun.
All right, George. Good to see you, man.
Love you too. Bye.
All right. The incomparable George to apparently finish us off tonight. No more calls in the pipeline. We do appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. So we have, ever since, I believe, July, gone live basically every night, 10 p.m. Eastern time with all of you taking your calls every night. That ceases now. And we will have a new off-season schedule, that to be announced sometime soon. We have the State of the Voice of College Football. I've got to work on a top 25 that actually makes sense. Actually, that top 25 that actually makes sense to close out 2025 is going to be a top 1 through 136 that actually makes sense. So in the next few weeks, expect to see the final rankings for 2025. Program rankings. Those are two different things. Program rankings is the entire program. The team rankings for 2025 as well. We may dive into the transfer portal and try to make sense of it. We've got coaches rankings to work on. We've got our top coaches hirings for 2026 to work on. We've got a way too early top 25 that actually makes sense for 2026. So all sorts of good things to work on, but it all starts with this. The State of the Voice of College Football coming up Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern time with all of you. Don't miss it. If you have to miss it, then please watch the replay because we're going to talk about things we've never talked about before concerning the Voice of College Football. I am about done for the night, folks. I appreciate your support. Appreciate you being here. Always great to see all of you there in the chat. See so many familiar names and faces, avatars, and so many people that have supported us for such a long time. That never goes without notice. So thank you for what you do to keep us going. Yes, you have, many of you tagged me as the voice of college football, but basically it's my voice, it's your voice, it's the voice of the callers, it's the voice of the guests here at the Voice of College Football, that all of us together make it the Voice of College Football. We will see you when we see you. The next time, maybe Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, for the state of the Voice of College Football. Have a good night.